I'm not sure what you're trying to say, Mark said calmly, but I could hear the tightness in his voice as he slowly set his coffee mug on the counter. I'm your husband, Prudence, not some stranger trying to scam you. All I want to know is, why won't you add me to your new investment account? His tone was cool, careful, controlled. I kept my voice steady, even though I could feel the familiar knot of tension starting to form in my chest. We've always been open about money, Mark, that's how we've made things work all these years. He let out an exaggerated sigh and leaned back in his chair like I was being dramatic. It's just a side account, he said, a small investment experiment I'm working on. Not every penny we have needs to be managed together. Then his voice shifted, softer, almost like he was speaking to a child. You've never shown much interest in investment strategy before. Why does asset allocation suddenly matter to you now? We sat across from each other in the kitchen, the morning light pouring in through the windows of our home in Seattle. But despite the sunshine, everything between us felt cold, distant. I'm not worried about your investment strategy, I said, looking him in the eye. I'm worried about the secrecy, the locked phone, the separate email account, the cash withdrawals, the P.O. box, and now, separate finances. That's not what trust looks like. Mark's expression darkened. After 15 years, don't you think I've earned a little privacy? If you can't trust me to handle a few investments without hovering over me, maybe this marriage has bigger problems than I thought. He stood up quickly, snatched his jacket from the back of the chair, and walked toward the front door. I'm late for work, he said without looking at me. We'll talk about your trust issues another time. The door shut behind him with a sharp click, and I was left alone at the table, my tea gone cold, my mind racing. My name is Prudence Westfield. I'm 43 years old and I work as a risk management consultant for insurance firms. I've built a reputation for spotting trouble before it shows up. My clients trust me to protect their businesses. In fact, they call me Prudence the Prudent. Funny, isn't it, that I could see danger coming a mile away at work, but completely missed it in my own home. Mark and I met 16 years ago at a finance conference. He was confident, smart, and shared my passion for planning ahead. A year later, we were married. We built our careers side by side and enjoyed a stable, comfortable life. We decided not to have kids. Our focus was our work, our travels, our time together. For 14 years, everything felt predictable, safe, like a well-balanced portfolio. We were a team, until about 6 months ago. That's when things started to change. I opened my laptop and looked at our joint accounts again. Nothing unusual. The balances were solid. Maybe I was reading too much into things. Maybe there was a simple explanation for Mark's behavior. Then my phone buzzed. It was a notification from our new home security system, a motion alert from my office. I opened the video feed and froze. There, in grainy night vision footage, was Mark, at 4:13 in the morning, standing over my desk, carefully photographing my private banking documents with his phone. He wasn't rushing, he was calm, methodical, focused. A cold wave washed over me. This wasn't paranoia anymore, this was real. Growing up, I watched my family fall apart during the 2008 financial crash. My father lost everything, and with it, the marriage. My mother had warned me countless times, always protect yourself, love is great, but money matters. So I did. I had always kept my own accounts. Even after we got married, we paid for household expenses together, sure, but my savings, my retirement funds, my investments, they were in my name only. Mark had the same setup. It worked for us, or at least, I thought it did. Mark's background was the opposite of mine. He grew up in a wealthy home. Money had always been easy for him. Still, he was driven and ambitious, and I respected him for that. I didn't even mind his expensive hobbies, the motorcycle, the office upgrades, the occasional impulse splurge. We could afford them. But around 6 months ago, something changed. He started working late. He angled his laptop screen away when I walked into the room. He gave vague answers when I asked about bills or expenses. Then I found a credit card I didn't recognize while sorting through tax papers. The payments came from our joint account. It's just for work, he said. My company reimburses me. I wanted to believe him. I tried to, but more red flags started piling up. He changed the password on his phone. He rented a P.O. box without telling me. He started withdrawing cash in small amounts, never enough to alert the bank, but enough to raise questions. When I asked him, he waved it off, Some investment opportunities require fast cash. I smiled, I nodded, but inside, I was filing it all away. I upgraded our home security under the excuse of neighborhood crime. I began tracking every expense in a spreadsheet, every penny, every hour, every password. My instincts were telling me something was wrong, I just didn't know what yet. Then came the security footage, and with it, undeniable proof. That morning, while Mark was at work, I began digging through all of our financial accounts, especially my personal ones. At first, everything looked fine, but then I found a pending request. Someone had tried to add a new authorized user to my main savings account. Full access. It had been submitted the day before using my online login, but the bank needed a verbal confirmation before approving the change. I hadn't made that request. My hands were shaking as I called the bank. Yes, Ms. Westfield, the representative said, there was a request to add a Mr. Mark Westfield to the account. Do not approve it, I said firmly, I believe this is unauthorized. Would you like to report it as fraud? She asked gently. I paused. That word, fraud, felt heavy. I was talking about my husband. Yes, I said, my voice cold and clear, report it, and lock the account. She helped me secure everything, change my passwords, flag my credit, and place alerts on all activity. You should consider filing a police report, she said, just to have it on record. I thanked her, but I wasn't ready for that. Not yet. That night, I made dinner like usual. I smiled, I waited. As we ate, I brought it up casually. Hey, I said, stabbing a piece of roasted carrot, my bank called. Someone tried to add a new user to my savings account. Mark didn't flinch, but his fork stopped halfway to his mouth. Really? That's strange. Did they say who? His lie was smooth, effortless. They're still checking, I said with a shrug. I changed all my passwords, just in case. I watched him carefully. A flicker of something passed through his eyes, annoyance, fear, guilt. He didn't say much after that. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling while he snored softly beside me. Who was this man? What else was he hiding? Why now, after 15 years? Whatever the reason, I couldn't ignore the facts anymore. Mark had crossed a line, and I needed to protect myself before he went even further. I would take steps to secure my finances against whatever Mark was planning. This was no longer about saving my marriage, it was about saving myself. The next morning, I called in sick to work for the first time in 3 years. Once Mark left, briefcase in hand and a perfunctory kiss on my cheek, I sprang into action. My first call was to Diane Blackwood, a forensic accountant I'd worked with on several fraud cases through my consulting business. Financial deception between spouses is unfortunately common, Diane said after I explained the situation, but attempting to gain unauthorized access to accounts is crossing into potential criminal territory. We need to move quickly. With Diane's guidance, I spent the day implementing financial safeguards. I moved funds from my compromised accounts to new ones at different banks. I froze my credit, changed every password, and set up advanced two-factor authentication on all accounts. I gathered all important financial documents and secured them in a safe deposit box at a bank where Mark and I had no relationship. What about your joint accounts? Diane asked during our follow-up call. I've left them untouched for now, I replied. I don't want to alert him that I'm onto his plans. Smart, she approved. We can monitor those accounts for unusual activity. If he thinks he's about to gain access to your personal savings, he might get careless with the joint funds. I also reached out to Jonathan Lewis, an attorney specializing in financial fraud. His advice was blunt. Document everything. Start building a case now, even if you're not sure where this is heading, and consider setting up a decoy. A decoy? I asked. A financial honeypot, he explained, a dummy account that appears valuable but contains limited funds. If he attempts to access it, you'll have irrefutable evidence of intent. Following his advice, I established new accounts with modest balances, enough to appear valuable, but not catastrophic if compromised. I deliberately left information about these accounts where Mark might discover it, complete with passwords written in the same shorthand system he'd photographed. For 2 weeks, I maintained a facade of normalcy while monitoring our finances obsessively. Mark seemed to notice nothing amiss, though he was increasingly absent, citing late meetings and client dinners. I nodded and smiled, playing the role of unsuspecting wife while privately documenting his every suspicious move. Then came the first unauthorized transaction, a $3,200 charge for a weekend at a luxury resort in Napa Valley, charged to one of my decoy credit cards. The reservation was for the following month, for 2 people. My name was not on the booking. When I casually mentioned I might join him for a work conference that same weekend, Mark didn't even blink. Bad timing. Unfortunately, I'll be in back-to-back meetings with potential clients. Wouldn't see much of me anyway. The lies were becoming more brazen, yet confronting him directly seemed premature. Diane and Jonathan both advised patience, building an airtight case before making any accusations. He hasn't accessed the main decoy account yet, Diane noted during our weekly check-in. The credit card charges, while concerning, could be explained away as mistakes or misunderstandings. We need something definitive. I agreed, but found the waiting excruciating. Who was the second person on the Napa reservation? Was Mark planning to leave me once he secured access to my finances? The uncertainty gnawed at me, making sleep elusive and concentration difficult. Then, 3 weeks after discovering Mark's late-night photography session, I received an alert I'd been both expecting and dreading, a login attempt on my primary decoy account, followed by a transfer request for $65,000 to an unfamiliar account number. The trap had been sprung. Now, I needed to discover just how deep Mark's betrayal went before confronting him with what I knew, but I'd underestimated his boldness, and the speed with which he would act once he believed he had access to my funds. The $65,000 transfer from my decoy account was just the beginning. Over the next 2 weeks, a flurry of activity emptied the account. $122,000 for high-end electronics, $8,500 at designer boutiques, $3,500 for first-class airline tickets to Cabo San Lucas. The spending was frenzied and reckless, as if Mark feared the access might be revoked at any moment. Throughout it all, he maintained an impeccable facade at home. We shared meals, watched movies together, even made plans for a weekend getaway to celebrate our upcoming anniversary. The disconnect between his actions and his demeanor was dizzying. He's escalating faster than we anticipated, Diane observed as we reviewed the latest transactions. This isn't just opportunistic spending, Jonathan added, it's systematic liquidation. The question is, why now? That question haunted me. Mark's behavior had changed 6 months ago, but something specific must have prompted his decision to actually steal from me. I began investigating Mark with the same methodical thoroughness I applied to my professional cases. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. While organizing our home office, a task Mark always avoided, I discovered a hidden file folder tucked behind our reference books. Inside was a stack of medical documents, diagnostic reports, treatment recommendations, and insurance claims, all dated approximately 6 months ago. Mark had cancer, specifically, a rare form of lymphoma that required aggressive and expensive treatment his insurance would only partially cover, with estimated out-of-pocket costs exceeding $200,000. My mind reeled. Why hadn't he told me? We had the financial resources to handle this together. Instead, he'd chosen deception and theft over honesty, with his wife of 15 years. I contacted Mark's doctor, presenting myself as his wife handling insurance matters. The receptionist was helpful. Mr. Westfield has been responding well to treatment. His last checkup showed significant improvement, though of course, he'll need to continue the maintenance protocol. And the experimental treatment he was considering? I asked, fishing for information. Oh, he decided to proceed with that next month. It's not covered by insurance, of course, but he said financing wouldn't be an issue. Because he planned to finance it with my money. The realization was like a physical blow. I shared my discovery with Diane and Jonathan that evening. This changes everything, Jonathan said gravely. His motivation might generate sympathy, but the method remains criminal. Cancer doesn't give you license to steal, Diane agreed, especially from your spouse. He could have talked to you, worked out a plan together. Despite their reassurance, I felt conflicted. Mark was ill, potentially fighting for his life. Could I really proceed with exposing his fraud under these circumstances? My moment of hesitation evaporated the next morning when I checked the private investigator's report. I'd hired him on Jonathan's recommendation to determine who might be accompanying Mark on his various unauthorized trips. The report was comprehensive and devastating. Mark wasn't planning these excursions with a medical caregiver or healthcare provider. His companion was Vanessa Daniels, his 29-year-old executive assistant. Hotel records, restaurant reservations, and flight bookings confirmed they'd been traveling together for at least 4 months. Photos showed them in intimate situations that left no doubt about the nature of their relationship. My husband was stealing my money not just for cancer treatment, but to finance a lavish lifestyle with his mistress. The dual betrayal crystallized my resolve. Whatever sympathy his medical condition might have warranted evaporated in the face of this complete breach of trust. It was time to confront Mark, with exactly what I knew, and what I had done to protect myself from his calculated deception.